Little update tonight on these bull run boots from DANNER. If you follow my channel, you'll know that earlier in the year I did a feature on DANNER. I hadn't experienced them. They're not easy to get your hands on over here in the UK. So I actually picked up 3 pairs. I got the bull runs you see here, the Mountain Light and the Light. And I put it over to subscribers, which boots do you want to see reviewed long term? Because I want to know what's interesting to my viewers. And universally, the bull run came out as the most popular boots for review. It's a little bit of a surprise because the other boots are a bit more interesting, maybe a bit more going on, technical sort of features like Gore-Tex and a slightly more interesting construction. But I guess these are the more directly comparable with your Thorogoods, your Red Wings, and they're at that sort of price point. So maybe that's what it is, but these were the ones that people wanted to see a long-term review on. And over the last few weeks I've had opportunity to break these in. It's been a strange year. Maybe I haven't been doing as much walking, I've had other boots to wear, but eventually I've got to start breaking these in. So I thought a little update on the sizing, the break-in process, and the sort of first impressions of how these boots are put together and what I expect of them in the long term. So if we start off with sizing, you'll see on the box there 8.5 US. That translates to 8 UK. This is D-width fitting. DANNER rather, do tend to give options about EE or D-width fittings, which is unusual. That's not something I've really experienced with Red Wings, but I've gone for a D on these. So in terms of the size, a UK 8 is really what I'd call to be my true size. Red Wings, everything like that, I always go true to size. I feel that sometimes the advice to size down isn't right for me. Maybe I've got a slightly wider foot, and also if you size true to size, then you can always recover the fitting with a thick pair of socks, and often that's really what you want to do with work boots. So as I say, these are relatively true to size. As they've broken in and as I've started wearing them, there's a couple of observations I've got in terms of how they fit. Obviously very simple construction, nice sort of simple vamp up the front there, very little stitching, so you're not going to get the sort of normal pinch and rub points. But what I have noticed is the toe box is quite narrow. These are certainly something, if you've got particularly wide feet, you might want to go for the double E fitting or indeed size up. But as opposed to sort of Red Wings, I did find that the toe box was a little bit narrow, certainly around the area where it's constructed with the cup there, or the cap. Also, the throat of the boot, the bit where you fit your foot in, because of the bellows tongue going a good way up the boot there, up until the end of the eyelets, it isn't a particularly generous bellows construction. So in terms of fitting your foot into this, it takes a little bit of stretching, takes a bit of breaking in, not quite as easy to get on your foot as similar sort of Red Wing boots. But that's just a little observation. So certainly if you've got wide feet, you'd want to look at the different width fittings. In terms of the size, I've just been wearing these with a thin sock, so no thick boot socks. Obviously we're in the summer, but due to the narrow sort of toe box, I've really found that a thinner sock is a better fit. Plenty comfortable. They're a lined boot. They've got a wicking lining sort of going down the vamp area, so plenty warm enough for a thinner sock, but that's just my experience. In terms of break-in, as I say, there's very minimal stitching on these, so you don't have the moccasin welt where you'll naturally get sort of strong sort of folds where you'll get pinches and rubs, and indeed there haven't been any blisters, rubs. Really, sort of none of the traditional sort of discomforts of breaking in boots have sort of come home to roost on these. There's no sort of slop in the heel cap there, which sometimes catches the rear of your ankle. They've been pretty good for break-in, as I expected due to the very simple construction. What I would say, however, is that there is a surprising amount of material which gathers on top of your foot here. So you've got the quarter meeting the vamp, and you've also got a two-piece construction to the tongue. You've got these lace stays, if that's what you want to call it, where the eyelets come in, and it all sort of gathers up just on the on the fold point there, not quite on the top of your toes, but sort of maybe going across the upper part of your foot. Again, no blisters, no rubs, but a little bit of pressure, almost a sense of bruising during the break-in period, but that's quickly coming to an end as the boot stretches out and as everything becomes supple and starts to fit together nicely. So just thinking about the construction and what's good and what's not so good about these boots, what I'm thinking about their future. They are comfortable boots, so they're very comfortable. These crusty soles seem to be of a better compound than you'd find on Red Wings. So the Red Wings, very comfortable, but wear out incredibly quickly. This seems more similar to what you find on Thorogoods, which I did find wear better, so a longer wearing sole. And it also has it's more of a sort of a foamy sole, so it's got a little bit more bounce, and I think that bounce will stay. Red Wing soles really don't have quite that bounce, so I think this is going to be harder wearing and a little bit more comfortable underfoot than maybe a Red Wing sole if you're used to that. In terms of wear, no brand claims that a Christie wedge sole is going to last you as long as a Vibram lug. It is simply a softer construction, softer compound. I think Danner have got it right. They make that really clear on their website that these aren't designed for long-term use on concrete. These are ideally an off-road boot. This is where the design of the sole comes from, the lack of deep tread, so you don't sort of stamp mud into your homestead or wherever it might be. So I think Danner have got it right by being open and honest about the nature of their soles. In terms of the break-in, easy break-in really. That's another big plus point. Insoles, which is quite nice. I've only really sort of experienced insoles recently on the Red Wing 1907s, and it's a nice feature. It just makes that more comfortable all-day experience. So if you're buying these for work boots, that's going to help you out. And finally, the fact that it's lined is nice. You've got a wicking lining in there, a little bit of warmth in the winter, and also a little bit of sweat management in the summer. I think that's a nice feature if you're thinking about these for work. In terms of possible sort of weaknesses in the design and concerns for the future of these boots, now obviously this will come through in the long-term review, but there's a couple of things which I've noticed which I think could be done differently. I talked earlier about the width of the throat, and that being quite a tight fit as you get your shoe in or get your foot into the boot. I've also noticed that the width of the tongue, it's a really, really slender tongue in terms of its width across there. That means that you've got to really carefully cinch it in to get it just right, and certainly if you're wearing thicker socks or you're of a heavier build than I am with a thicker ankle, I think you're going to find that tongue is often not doing all it should do to protect your ankle from the eyelets and the structure of the boot. So I think they need to look at the bellows construction and possibly the width of the tongue. I just don't think it's not quite right for a boot which you'll be wearing for work with thicker socks. I'm also slightly concerned about the structure of the heel cap and toe caps. Now, very reminiscent, or my assessment is this is a very reminiscent structure or construction to Thorogood. So you end up with a little bit more than you do with Red Wings, with linings, insoles, but they do rely on what I believe to be plastic heel caps. So you can actually see the little ridge of plastic as it's sewn down in the stitched down welt construction at the bottom there, and I'm assuming, and it feels likely, that the toe cap is also a plastic construction. Now, in terms of initial sort of robustness, no problems at all, but as you break in your boots, you approach that first resole, leather construction, so leather caps, toe and heel, they simply sort of wear in. They lose a bit of structure, but they break in with your foot. What I've noticed on my Thorogoods in the past, and the reason why I won't be resoling my Thorogoods, is that the heel cap, once it deteriorates, its failure is pretty catastrophic. So it's not going to get soft, it's not going to get a bit bendy, it's not going to lose its shape. It is just simply going to fracture. At that point, you end up with some really uncomfortable edges. And also on the toe cap on my Thorogoods, I did have a bit come exposed just on the edge, and it was just catching my toes. It wasn't causing blisters, but clearly, to my mind, that was a indication of the life coming to an end of those boots. So that's a couple of criticism, observations, things I think could be done differently. I really like full leather construction, including the structure of the heel and toe. Definitely my my preference there. But we'll see how these wear in over time. I'll be typically trying to wear these off-road, recognising the design of the Christie sole and that it's better suited to off-road work. But yeah, very happy with them so far. Certainly, I think they're a good competitor for Red Wing. Their price point is certainly in the UK considerably less than an equivalent Red Wing boot. So these are coming in at around about £200 in the UK. Red Wings start off about £250, £240, something like that. So I think they're a good boot. Next update will probably be around about the 6-month mark. We'll see how they're wearing in. But that's about it for today. I hope that's useful. If you've had these boots, please tell me about your break-in experiences and your long-term feelings about their design, their durability in the comments. If you haven't seen my channel before, please check it out. Lots of boot reviews, quality denim, bit of everyday carry, fountain pens, pen knives, that sort of stuff, guitar, cycling. Check it out. We might share some other common interests. Of course, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Love it if you subscribed, and I'll see you for the next video. Okay? Thank you very much. Bye-bye.